First, a small town on the mid-coast is marking an unhappy anniversary this weekend. It was a year ago that a fire devastated Port Clyde. Rebuilding will take time, but businesses have gotten a good start and say more progress is coming. 207's Don Kerrigan went there to see what has happened and what is happening now.
It is indeed, Rob. As you know, Port Clyde is a close-knit community, a village, a great mix of fishing families and summer people. Even the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court spends time there in the summer. So last year's fire touched a lot of lives. On one of the last days of summer,
Here we go!
There are few adventures to match a boat ride to Monhegan. It's been a busy summer, as usual, in Port Clyde, jumping off point for all those tourists visiting the island, and still one of Maine's leading lobster towns. But this summer, the routine has been different. After the fire that destroyed the Port Clyde General Store and Dipnet restaurant and almost wiped out the new home of the Monhegan Boat Lines.
My building was engulfed. The roof was pretty well burnt and had fallen down.
That's what company owner Andy Barstow saw when he first got to the dock that September night.
It was very shocking, but we had to get up and fix it, you know, so that's what we did.
It had already been a tough year. Barstow's father, who ran the business for decades, had passed away just weeks before. Now the fire, and still the need to keep running the daily boat service to Monhegan.
It was rough. I've never been so wobbly.
But this town turned out to help.
It was really all of the community getting together, all of them, you know, helped me get out of the wobble.
The fire was still smoking when people began helping him clean up and plan the rebuild. A determination that came to be known as Port Clyde Strong.
For me, it was like surreal. I was like, this can't be happening. Like it was almost, really, like it was almost a dream or a nightmare.
We felt like the response was good and it was, you know, we were going to get there. We did not even think that it was going to go as far as it did in the beginning.
Jerry and Karen Cushman, who lived just a mile away, told us they got to the fire even before the trucks arrived.
But until we saw the smoke coming out of the top of the roof, we still thought that it was going to be contained. And once you saw that and then the windows being blown out and the amount of smoke and then just the power of the fire, it was pretty hard to watch.
How vivid is that in your mind?
It's very vivid.
St. George Fire Chief Mike Smith. What do you remember most about that?
The fire just creeping around the store. We couldn't get a hold of it. We would kind of start putting it out in one area and it would pop out over here.
The general store, its Wyeth Art Gallery, and Dipnet restaurant were gone. Dipnet owner Lexi Zabel watched it.
We actually sat here from about 11 to 6 o'clock in the morning and watched it all happen. So,
what was that like?
Maybe it was very traumatic.
The loss of the general store, of course, has been a loss of convenience for many people. But for those who've lived here all their lives or come every summer, it is something more. It's the loss of the very visible heart of their community. The part of Port Clyde they have always known is gone.
Port Clyde wasn't the same without the general store. I know that sounds crazy because it's just a general store. But if you go to all these small communities up and down the coast of Maine and go down there and look where people go and congregate and talk and meet, it's at the general stores.
This is the place that my kids call their summer. You know, this is their community, this is their playground. Yes, we have a playground, but the store and the action and all of that, my parents are coming in on their boat. I mean, this is their place. And that's what makes me the most sad, that they're losing that history.
But a year later, Port Clyde is coming back.
You know, we jumped right in. We had no choice. I just made up my mind. we gotta do this. It's our business, it's our life.
Andy Barstow started it. With a whole lot of help from friends and others, he began to rebuild. So this is, for now, the general store?
It is, yes. Yeah, we're working together. We're kind of sharing this lower space.
Inside the boat line building, the Port Clyde General Store lives on, with some essentials and some favorites. Linda Bean's Perfect Maine, which owned the store, says it will be rebuilt.
Thank you.
Lexi Zabel's Dip Net is back too, working out of a food trailer on the dock.
Obviously, it's very different than our full-service restaurant.
Yeah.
But we can't complain. We're just happy to be here.
Business and life go on, even as people wait and hope a new store can recapture what was lost.
We had such a great vibe going on in this town, and all of the businesses were feeding off of each other. And so we certainly have taken a step back, but we're going to get back.
A year after the fire that took out the middle of their village, Port Clyde is still strong. But people tell us there is still something missing. It is that heart of their village. They want it back. A couple other things to mention. The work to rebuild the general store certainly suffered a setback when Linda Bean passed away early this year, but the leader of her company says that they're going to the planning board next month to really start the process of getting approval to rebuild. And Rob, the group that formed called Port Clyde Strong has been continuing to raise money, doing things to help people who are hurt by the fire. He helped the fire department, and they say they're going to continue doing that at least 3 years, maybe 5.
All right. Such a compact waterfront.
It is.
Really had the heart just torn out of it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Don.